Hey friends, hey besties, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another seasonal TBR video. So we are officially into springtime, you guys. I am so happy. The long winter has gone. It has felt about 8 years long. I never thought it was going to end, but as of yesterday, it is officially springtime in the UK, and so therefore I'm coming at you with a spring TBR. So this is basically all the books I would like to get to over the next few months before British summertime rolls in. I have 27 books on this TBR, which I feel like is equally accessible and also absolutely unhinged, and I don't really know which way it's going to end up being. Am I going to stick to every single book on this TBR? Probably not. No. Am I going to give it a damn good go? Yes. Yes, I am. But I do have some other books as well that I'm hoping to read. Like, this isn't an exhaustive list. This was just kind of the list of books that, while considering springtime and the mood I'm currently in and the vibes that are currently flowing and where I feel like I'm sitting with my reading, these books were the ones that just kind of leapt off my shelves at me and screamed, read me please, finally, because we have been waiting for far too long. So anyway, on that, I'm just going to dive in. We have such a mixture of genres here as well, you guys. We've got romance, we've got fantasy, we've got contemporary, we've got non-fiction, we have got horror, thriller. We have quite a lot, quite a considerable amount. So yeah, I'm gonna stop rambling. I'm gonna get into the video and I hope you guys like it. So first up, we have Acts of Desperation by Megan Nolan, which I believe is kind of almost like an anti-romance. So this is about a 20-something girl who falls in love and just her entire life revolves around this man, and her mannerisms, everything revolves around making this man want her and making him love her. And I feel like I'm going to relate a lot to the protagonist because I feel like I had those unhinged moments myself in my early 20s, and so I'm excited to read something that I think is going to have a nod to younger Lucy and is also probably going to have a nod to current Lucy in terms of like the hopeless romanticism around the idea of romantic relationships. So this I'm really looking forward to. It says we're all looking to get what we want, but do we know what we need? Do we? I mean, that is the question. Next up, we have Brutal Prince and Stolen Heir by Sophie Lark. These are book 1 and 2 in the Brutal Birthright series, which is a mafia romance series, and I believe each book is like a connected standalone. So I'm excited to delve into these. I love these editions. These are obviously the illustrated covers, but I believe they have illustrations inside them as well. And I only found this out because someone, yes they do, somebody on TikTok mentioned they have spicy illustrations inside. So I'm not sure what to make of that, and I guess I will make that decision when I come to reading the books. But these I'm really excited about. This one is, I think, a arranged marriage trope, and I'm not sure what this one is. I'm trying not to read the back of this one too much just in case it contains any spoilers for what happens in this one. But I've heard amazing things about this series. I loved Sophie Lark's, oh gosh, is it the Sinner's Duet? Is that what it's called? I really loved that. So I have high hopes for these two. I think I'm going to really enjoy them, and I'm excited to get stuck into a new series, especially one with such beautiful covers. There's also a series as well after this one, which I believe involves the children from this series as well. So I like the fact that this is complete, and I think that is complete, and oh, love it. Love that for me. Then we have Lovers by Fiona Cole, which is the second book in the Voyeur series, which basically is a series again of interconnected standalones that kind of concerns this sex club called Voyeur, where people can go in and they can choose performers to enact scenes for them based upon whatever it is that they're feeling like that day. This one I think is male, female. I think. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm excited to read this one. I really loved the first one when I read that a couple of years ago, and I've had this on my shelf now for far too long, so it's just time to delve into this and see what it contains. I do like Fiona Cole as a romance author. She tends to write just really compelling characters, very compelling plots, and really great spice. The first book did kind of make me feel a bit icky in places because there was very much like a real power imbalance between the main character and the love interest, but regardless of that, I did really enjoy it, so I think I will love this one. Okay, then we have Losers Part 2 by Harley LaRue. I've read The Dare in January, and I read Losers Part 1 in February, and I was going to try and read this in March, but I just didn't quite get to it. But this is the concluding book in the Losers duet, which is a continuation of The Dare, which is Harley LaRue's hella spicy little novella. So this one basically is going to carry on from the events in book 1, so I'm not going to speak about it in too much detail because I don't want to spoil anything for you guys, but this is basically a reverse harem romance. It is incredibly spicy. It involves this group of guys and Jess. So these guys were kind of the losers in high school, and Jess was one of the popular girls who made their lives misery, and then all of a sudden the tables have kind of turned since they've all graduated, and Jess comes back into town and discovers that the leader of the losers kind of a gang is much more socially accepted than he ever was before, and he basically dares her at a college party to do lots of interesting things, and that is the novella, and it's her just kind of coming to terms with her desires and things that she's kind of suppressed since high school. And then Losers Part 1, it's set a few years after the novella. Jess comes back into town, and this time she's got a debt to pay to the boys, and so yeah, this is where that storyline continues, and I'm very, very excited. Losers Part 1 ended on such a cliffhanger, so I just can't wait to delve back into this. Also, I've said it before and I will say it again, Harley LaRue is the queen of spice. Nobody writes it as well as she does at all. So if you like a really smutty book, definitely pick these up. Check the trigger warnings before you do, because there are definitely a lot of trigger warnings for pretty much everything that Harley LaRue writes. But I couldn't recommend it more. I love it. On to a popular TikTok book now. We have The Simple Wild by K.A. Tucker. I know very little about this, only that it's set up in Alaska. It's a small town romance, and it's kind of city girl goes to be with her dad in Alaska and meets a country boy, and I suppose it's like an enemies to lovers kind of vibe. I've tried not to read too much about this because I'm really excited to read it, and so I didn't want to accidentally spoil myself by going too in depth on TikTok and YouTube about it, but I've heard unbelievable good things about this book, so I'm really excited to get stuck in and see what it holds. Similarly, I've also heard a lot about this series recently. This is Playing for, no it's not, this is Consider Me, which is book 1 in the Playing for Keeps series by Becca Mack, and this is a sports romance. So it is an NHL player, so yeah, that's hockey, right? Excuse the uncultured Brit here not knowing about American sports. I believe it's hockey, but I think it's like popular guy, enemies to lovers, and I think he just turns out to be an absolute golden retriever boyfriend from what I've heard. But everyone says this is good. Everyone says it's really cheesy, but good. So I'm excited to delve into it. I just want to see what the hype's about. Honestly, I've not got too many expectations for this book. As you can tell, I know very little about it. I've bought it based purely on the vibes that I've heard about on TikTok, so I hope it lives up to our expectations. And this is another one where obviously it's part of a series, so if I do like it, I can delve in and get to know more of the characters, which I'm excited for. On to a non-fiction pick now. We have The Year of Magical Thinking by Joan Didion, which is like a memoir based around a year following, I think she's grieving her husband in this book. But I've read a lot about Joan Didion. I haven't actually read any of her work so far, but I also have Slouching Towards Bethlehem as well on my TBR, and I'm really excited to get to that one as well. I just heard that she is just an incredible writer. She's very thought-provoking. She deals with a multitude of different hard-hitting topics, and I've heard, you know, honestly just so many good things. So I'm very excited to read this one. We've had a loss in my family recently, and so I have been kind of confronting grief and how I grieve and what grief is, you know, the grieving process, the fact that it's not linear, the fact that everybody grieves differently. I'm trying to understand it better. So I feel like this is a very timely time to read this book, and hopefully it will impart some more wisdom. I've also read Adichie's Notes on Grief this month, and that was just a really beautiful portrayal of grief as well. So I just find it very interesting. Grief's like one of those subjects that I find quite triggering in books usually, because I have had a lot of grief in my short life, so learning how to navigate it and learning how to deal with it in a healthier fashion is obviously something that I am really keen to explore more of within my reading. So that is my reasons for picking that one up. I don't know what my hair is doing in this video today, you guys. It's got a lot of volume, and my hair never has a lot of volume, so I do not know what to do with this Anyway, next up we have Nudes by Saba Sams. So this is a book that I picked up recently. It's just a collection of short stories, I believe all about womanhood, set obviously in a contemporary setting. I love little books like this, honestly. I think it's just, womanhood and girlhood is a very magical thing, and it's a very unique thing. And I love reading other people's depictions on, you know, the situations we all got ourselves into, the experiences that we all have as a collective, and honestly just what feminism and femininity and girlhood and womanhood means and feels like. I love it, it fascinates me. So it says here, in 10 dazzling stories, Saba Sams dives into the world of girlhood and immerses us in its contradictions and complexities. These unforgettable short stories deftly chart the treacherous terrain of growing up, of intense friendships, of ambivalent mothers, of uneasily blended families, and of learning to truly live in your body. So yeah. Then we have New Animal by Ella Baxter. So this is about a girl who is a mortician, and one day she just kind of like runs away from the family business. She doesn't want to be a part of it anymore, and she finds herself embroiled in this like world of BDSM. It doesn't give you much more than that in the synopsis, so I'm quite excited, I guess, to explore that from a different perspective. Obviously, you know, there's a lot of BDSM type relationships in a lot of these smutty books that I read and that a lot of us read, and so it's interesting to come at it from perhaps a different perspective, in a different way, in a different manner. So yeah, I'm stoked. It says here she learns even more about sex, death and grief, and the different way pain works its way through the body. It'll take a pair of fathers, a bruising encounter with a stranger, and recognition of her own body's limits to bring Amelia back to herself. So yeah. Next up is one that I've been excited to read for ages because the author is actually one of my friends, and I feel terrible that I haven't actually picked it up and read it yet. But that is Flames of Mirror by Clay Harmon. I'm so excited to read this book. So this is the first of the fantasy books I have picked out for spring, basically, and I'm wanting to get to this one pretty soon. So I find with fantasy it's very difficult sometimes to sum up what they're about, especially when you've not delved into them. So for this and a couple of the other fantasy books, I will read the blurb. I do try to avoid doing that in these videos because I always think it's interesting to actually learn why booktubers have picked up certain books, not just kind of hear a blurb rehash that you could read on, I don't know, the Barnes & Noble website or Waterstones or whatever. But for this one and a few others, that is what I'm going to do, so I apologise. But it says here, magic and redemption in a world of fire and ice. Among boiling volcanoes and Demira's frozen lands, people like Ig are forced to undergo life-threatening trials that bind chemical elements to the human body. One of Mira's most powerful elementals, Ig, serves as an enforcer for magnate Sorello Adrian, but is cursed with flesh-binding magic that will kill him at the first sign of disobedience. When Sorello is overthrown, Ig quickly learns that he can do far worse than what has been asked of him so far. If he can't escape the flesh-binding in time, he will have to kill friend and foe alike to stop his master reclaiming the throne, or sacrifice himself trying. This also has the most beautiful map at the front. Like, look at that. Stunning. So yeah, I am incredibly excited to read this. I'm actually really sad because Clay came over to the UK recently and I did not get a chance to hang out with him, so I'm thinking at least reading his book will hopefully make up for that. Okay, then we have The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager, which I actually read yesterday is being adapted into a Netflix movie, so love that. So this is about a widow who escapes to her family's lake house to kind of confront her grief. I love how grief is really playing a part in all of these books that I'm talking about, huh? But anyway, she goes to the lake house to kind of confront her grief, take some time out, and she becomes fascinated with the couple who are in the lake house opposite her. They basically seem to have everything that she doesn't, like the perfect marriage, the perfect home life. They seem to be happy, and she's jealous. So she's watching them, she's really intrigued by them, and then it turns out that she has a body in her house. So I'm intrigued by that one. I'm determined to read this book in spring. I've had this book on so many TBRs now. I'm not even going to talk about it because I've talked about it so much, but this is My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Ottessa Moshfegh. If I do not read this book by June, somebody needs to just take my booktube account away from me, remove my TBR pile, and stop me from ever buying books ever again, basically. Next, we have Heavenly Bodies by Imani Eriu, and this I think is a kind of similar to Zodiac Academy. It's like a fae fantasy romance with astrological themes where their lives are kind of governed by the stars, and I'm really excited about this. There is a prophecy apparently that states that the main character Elara has been cursed by fate but will fall for a star, and will it kill them both? So yeah, I'm excited for this. Like I say, it does have major Zodiac Academy vibes from kind of the cover and the kind of fight to the throne, fated star, whatevers, but I'm curious to see how this is done, because you guys know I am trash for Zodiac Academy. Like, I love that series and those books so much. So yeah, I'm really curious about this one, and hopefully it will be as good, if not better, than Zodiac Academy, and I can have another book series to obsess over. Yay! I also have Filthy Rich Vampire by Geneva Lee, which again I think has been on a couple of TBRs at this point. So this was recommended to me. I can't remember who recommended it to me now. Might have been Tori Between Pages. But this is basically like society Gossip Girl with vampires. I was sold. I was honestly sold at that. I have never hit purchase on a book quicker than I did with this one. So then I have a essay kind of collection. This is Olivia Lang's Funny Weather, Art in an Emergency, and I picked this one up purely based upon the fact that I saw one of my favourite YouTubers reading it recently. I love Moya Marwani. She's amazing. She creates these like incredible lifestyle based videos that are just so artsy and so carefully curated and aesthetically pleasing, and I very quickly pick up her book recommendations because she reads some really interesting and intellectual books, and I'm trying to kind of expand my horizons a little bit and read more intellectually, as well as just reading kind of fun books for pleasure. So this is one of the books that I picked up because this is kind of concerning artists, and in particular female artists, and why there hasn't been like a great female artist in many recent years, or centuries perhaps. So this profiles Jean-Michel Basquiat, Georgia O'Keeffe, interviews Hilary Mantel and Ali Smith. Apparently she writes love letters to David Bowie and Freddie Mercury, and explores loneliness and technology, women and alcohol, sex and the body. So I'm excited to read this. I have another of her non-fiction books as well. I think it's called The Lonely City, but I'm saving that, and I will explain at some point why I'm saving that, but I'm saving that for a specific purpose, which is why I'm not reading it yet. But yeah, this one I'm really excited to get to. I then have Palm Beach by Mary Adkins, which is about a couple who moved to Palm Beach in Florida for her husband's job, and she kind of questions the fact that they're kind of having to, I guess, put their morals aside to complete the work that he has to do, but then suddenly she becomes friends with a lot of the wives of the people that she hates that he's working with, and suddenly she's having to question her own motives and her own actions. And obviously this is set in Palm Beach, which is where I have spent an exorbitant amount of time over the past 2 years, which is the main reason why I picked it up. I love reading books that are set in very, very familiar locations, and this is just going to take the edge off the homesickness that I currently feel for Florida, because this is the longest I have not been in Florida for many years. So love that. Last month I finally read The Love Hypothesis, and oh my gosh, I loved it so much. So I want to read Love on the Brain this spring. So this is another women in STEM romance. I think it follows a very, very similar kind of plot to the first one, so very much Grumpy Sunshine, forbidden romance kind of vibes. Honestly, I'm not mad at it. I loved the first one that much that I will quite happily read it repackaged with a different cover. I loved it, and I'm hoping the smut is as good in this one as well, because that scene, whew, in Love Hypothesis lives rent-free in my mind. Not gonna lie to you guys, I loved it. Then we also have Love and Other Words by Christina Lauren. This is another one I know very little about, but Christina Lauren is kind of like an author by author for me, or author duo should I say. I've loved their writing ever since the Beautiful series, so I quite often just pick things up that I've seen them write because I know that I'm going to get along with it, and this one's no different. I've also seen this doing the rounds on BookTube a lot, and I know it's made many people's favourite romance book lists, so yeah, I'm stoked. Also, that cover is so cute. In a bit of dark academia now, we have In My Dreams I Hold a Knife, which has been compared extensively to If We Were Villains by ML Rio, which I also have, but I'm wanting to wait to read because I figured I'd read this one first. This one I've been told isn't as good, so I thought I'd save the best to last basically. But this is 6 friends, 1 college reunion and 1 unsolved murder. 10 years after graduation, Jessica Miller has planned her triumphant return to Southern Elite Duquette University. Down to the envious whispers that are sure to follow in her wake, everyone is going to see the girl she wants them to see, confident, beautiful and indifferent. Not the girl she was when she left campus, back when Heather Shelby's murder fractured everything, including the tight bond linking the 6 friends she'd been closest to since freshman year. But not everybody is ready to move on. We're on to the final few now. I need to get back to work, so I'm going to kind of whiz through these. Sally Rooney's Beautiful World, Where Are You? Has been on pretty much every single TBR I have made for many months now, so again, I'm not going to speak about it extensively, just know that this is one that I really, really want to read, and soon, because I'm angry at myself that I haven't done so far. I also have Then She Was Gone by Lisa Jewell. I actually haven't liked any of the Lisa Jewell books I've read before, but I have heard many, many good things about this one. And I've seen people crying at this, and I've seen people kind of freaking out over the plot twists in this book and saying that it's really unpredictable. So I thought I'd pick it up and see, because I do love a thriller, and I figured this one is going to be interesting. So it's about a woman who whose daughter went missing, I think 10 years ago, and she was 15, and then her mum has never moved on since then, has never stopped looking for her. But one day she meets a man, they start dating. She goes around to his house for the first time, and he has a daughter who's 9, and when she sees pictures of the daughter is the spitting image of her missing daughter. And then obviously questions are asked. I think I have a feeling in my head that I know where I'm expecting that book to go, but I could also be very, very wrong. I hope I'm wrong, is all I'm going to say. Then we have Know My Name by Chanel Miller. She is obviously the survivor of the Stanford sexual assault case, and this is just her story, her details of the events and everything that happened. I've heard that this is profoundly moving. I've heard that this is really, really heartbreaking and very, very difficult to read. Then we have A Chain of Thorns, which is the last book in the Last Hour series by Cassandra Clare. This one I have mixed feelings about, and I've heard mixed things about, actually, interestingly. I really liked Chain of Gold, which was the first one. I wasn't hugely enamoured by Chain of Iron, but I did enjoy the ending. So this one I pretty much only bought just so I can wrap it up and just know what happened. So this follows the children from the characters in the Infernal Devices. I love the characters in this series, I will say that much. I think their relationships are really interesting, and I do really enjoy reading from their point of view and also seeing some of the characters from the Infernal Devices as well. So for that reason alone, I would recommend picking it up if you did like Infernal Devices. Like I said, the first book was great, the second one was hit and miss, so I'm curious to see how this one ends, what I feel about it, whether I like it, whether it holds that Cassie Clare magic that, you know, we've all come to know and love. Then I have City of Dusk by Tara Sim. So this is another fantasy book, and I'm going to obviously read the blurb for you for the same reason as I did with Flames of Mirror. The four realms, life, death, light and darkness, all converge on the City of Dusk, ruled by the four noble houses of Nexus. But the gods have withdrawn their favour from the once vibrant and thriving city, and without it all the realms are dying. Unwilling to stand by and watch the destruction, the four heirs, Risha, a necromancer struggling to keep the peace, Angelica, an elementalist with her eyes set on the throne, Tasia, a shadow-wielding rogue with rebellion in her heart, and Nick, a soldier who struggles to see the light, will sacrifice everything to save the city, but their defiance will cost them dearly. City of Dusk is the first in a sweeping epic fantasy trilogy set in a gorgeous world of dark magic, vengeful gods and rebellious chosen ones. It also has a map. Final two now, we have The Ballad of Never After by Stephanie Garber, which obviously is a follow-up to Once Upon a Broken Heart, which I loved. Set in the same world as the Caraval trilogy and focusing on some of the same characters, so I won't say anything more than that. But this does heavily revolve around Jax, aka the love of my life, the Prince of Hearts, the Prince of my heart. I loved it. So yeah, I'm excited to read the conclusion. I think this is the conclusion. The concluding book in Jax's time. Okay guys, sorry if I've moved slightly, my memory card was full so I had to go and empty it. Anyway, my last book is Cleopatra and Frankenstein. Just look at this cover. I'm sorry, this is just everything to me. This cover is absolutely stunning. So this is, from what I'm aware of, about an American guy who falls in love with a much younger British student. I think she's an art student, and her visa runs out, her student visa runs out, so to avoid getting effectively deported back to the UK, they get married so that she can stay in America on a marriage visa. And I think it's about kind of the progression of their relationship from kind of like marriage of convenience to actual marriage and what happens after that. I've heard this is kind of like a bit of a coming of age novel because obviously the age difference, so I think it's kind of the coming of age from her perspective and kind of how you change as you get older. I've also heard this is really, really, really sad. I've heard a lot of people have cried at this book, and I'm really excited to delve into it, honestly, like really, really excited. So yeah, their age difference is 20 years, which is wild. Their impulsive marriage irreversibly changes both of their lives and the lives of those close to them in ways that neither of them could have predicted. Each compulsively readable chapter explores the lives of Cleo, Frank, and an unforgettable cast of their closest friends and family as they grow up and grow older. Whether it's Cleo's best friend struggling to embrace his gender queerness in the wake of Cleo's marriage, or Frank's financially dependent sister arranging sugar daddy dates to support herself after being cut off, or Cleo and Frank themselves as they discover the trials of marriage and mental illness, each character is as absorbing and painfully relatable as the last. As hilarious as it is heartbreaking, entertaining as it is deeply moving, Cleopatra and Frankenstein marks the entry of a brilliant and bold new talent. Yes, this is Coco Mellor's debut as well, so I'm very, very excited to delve into this imminently. I'm so excited. So anyway, that is my excessive spring TBR. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you have, as always, please give me a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe if you are new, and I will see you in another video very, very soon. Bye guys.